3 fuel companies appeared to create half New Zealand's reported company emissions, yet most of that carbon never left their own buildings. It left millions of exhaust pipes after customers bought fuel. The record follows Petrol Upstream before drivers burn it. Read the list as a map showing where government placed the meter. The list shows where the carbon meter sits. It does not simply show where smoke enters the sky. In August 2026, participant figures created a striking picture. The listed organizations reported 31.6 million tons of emissions. Z Energy, BP and Mobil together represented 51%. Most of their reported carbon came from fuel sales. Steel, aluminium, and other fossil fuel businesses also filled the top 10. Fonterra had led earlier versions of this ranking. Then agricultural activities left this particular reporting system. The change made fuel companies look even larger. Agricultural gases did not vanish from New Zealand's atmosphere. They vanished from this one ledger. Why would a climate system count emissions this way? Imagine placing the obligation on every driver. Each motorist would need a carbon account. They would record every litre and calculate every fuel type. They would file an annual return with the government. Millions of people would then buy and surrender carbon units. That system could be accurate in theory. It would also become an administrative forest. New Zealand chose a much smaller gate. Fuel enters the domestic market through relatively few suppliers. The carbon obligation usually attaches at that upstream point. Importers report fuel when it enters New Zealand's market. Suppliers also report fuel removed for domestic use. Private motorists remain outside the direct paperwork. The company calculates the future emissions using official factors. Those factors connect each fuel quantity with expected greenhouse gases. The company then reports the resulting tonnes. It must generally surrender 1 carbon unit for each reported tonne. 1 New Zealand unit represents 1 tonne of carbon dioxide equivalent. That common unit allows different greenhouse gases to share one measure. Liquid fuel suppliers gained full obligations in July 2010. Petrol, diesel, aviation gasoline, and jet kerosene enter this category. Light and heavy fuel oils also sit inside it. International aviation and marine fuel receive special treatment. The central mechanism still follows one simple journey. A supplier brings carbon-rich fuel through the market gate. The scheme places a price at that gate. The supplier can pass that cost along the chain. Eventually, part of it can reach the pump price. This explains a strange sentence in the official guidance. Fuel suppliers receive no free allocation for this obligation. They are not treated as exposed exporters. Officials expect them to pass costs to customers. The obligation therefore sits upstream, but the price can travel downstream. Look again at the biggest emitter list. Calling these companies emitters is legally useful. It identifies the organizations responsible for units and returns. Calling them the physical source can mislead. The physical release happens later, across roads, farms, airports, and ports. One company entry can represent countless private journeys. Company rankings therefore need careful reading. A ranking may describe legal responsibility, operational pollution, or customer use. Those are 3 different pictures. The New Zealand list mainly shows scheme participants and their obligations. It is not a complete company climate footprint. It is not the national greenhouse gas inventory either. That difference becomes clearer when agriculture enters the story. New Zealand removed agricultural activities from the scheme in November 2024. The change covered agricultural processors and fertilizer businesses. It also cancelled planned farm reporting from January 2026. Planned payment obligations from January 2027 disappeared too. This was a policy decision about the pricing system. It was not a scientific claim about cows or fertilizer. Methane and nitrous oxides still warm the atmosphere. New Zealand's national inventory still measures agricultural emissions. However, those emissions no longer appear beside fuel suppliers here. That creates two honest statements that sound contradictory. Agriculture remains a major part of New Zealand's climate problem. Agriculture can also be absent from the emissions trading scheme ranking. Both statements describe different ledgers. Timing creates another source of confusion. Participants collect information from January through December. Their annual emissions return is generally due by March 31st. Non-forestry participants surrender required units by May 31st. A report published later therefore describes an earlier calendar year. The publication date is not the emissions date. That small distinction protects a story from becoming stale. It also stops readers comparing mismatched periods. Does upstream accounting let drivers escape responsibility? It removes their paperwork, not their connection. Fuel demand determines how much product suppliers bring through the gate. Vehicle choices, travel patterns, freight, and public transport still matter. The scheme simply chooses fewer hands for collecting the price. Does the system force emissions to fall? Not automatically. It makes emitting carry a unit cost. That cost can influence investments, prices, and choices over time. The strength depends on unit supply, price, rules, and alternatives. A weak signal can sit inside a perfectly accurate ledger. A strong signal can still burden households without practical alternatives. Accounting design and climate effectiveness are separate questions. The ranking answers neither question alone. It does reveal something valuable about government design. New Zealand often regulates a mass activity through a narrow gateway. Petrol excise follows a similar logic. Fuel companies pay before recovering costs from motorists. One checkpoint can reach millions of transactions. The convenience carries a storytelling danger. The checkpoint starts looking like the whole journey. So keep one question beside every emissions league table. Where did the meter sit? At a chimney, a farm, a fuel importer, or a customer's purchase? The answer changes what the ranking means. 3 petrol brands did not own half New Zealand's exhaust pipes. They stood at the gate where the country chose to count them.